And thank you to Victor and to Philip for inviting me here. I'm excited to be here, but I have to tell you it's a little intimidating following the technology that Harold had behind. It's just a fantastic thing. So my presentation is also Microsoft technology, but one of your older ones. So we'll see how that translates today. Let me put this up. I wanted to just add a couple of comments, and thank you, Horatio, for the introduction about what I do at HOK and what I wanted to talk to all of you about today. And specifically, one of my roles is to talk and work with our company to discuss partnering, collaboration, and relationships with potential clients, with potential other architects, real estate companies, developers, working with companies together to really understand how we can be better as a partner together. And so I do that globally with two other partners. And one of the focuses that I have is in North America and in South America. And my clients and our clients span several. I know that there's actually a couple of you in the audience today, but you see a lot of them that are up here on the wall. And it's really important to know that these clients we've been doing work with for several years. Our relationship with IBM goes back to 1955. We've been working with them for a long time. So as we've looked at developing our relationships and our partnerships over the year with clients and with potential other real estate folks, we have spent a lot of time understanding how this has changed. And so I want to talk about how we look at those changes and going forward. So first, one of the things, I'm going to get a little bit what we would call in the US, the United States, warm and fuzzy with you. And warm and fuzzy is really what I want to get at when we talk about relationships. And relationships can be really talked about in two areas: your personal relationships and then your business relationships. And I challenge you to think that those lines are not blurred very much. They're very similar. So we're going to take a look at what that might actually mean. And this image really represents what I really think a partnership, a collaboration, and a relationship is about. And it's really about two hands. And two hands work together. They partner, they collaborate to produce something. Sometimes they're on their own, and sometimes they're together. They work often better times together. And so with that, I wanted to start to talk about what we are seeing are the issues around partnerships and collaborations and why we've been focusing on this. And mostly because our global clients are really looking for us to solve problems for them in a borderless way. We want to be able to access all of the great knowledge and the intimacy that you might have as a company, no matter what company it might be, together and really solve problems without borders. That is a big challenge. And as we look at some of those challenges, there's a couple of different ways of looking at it. One are the challenges that are needed by the local experts. So local meaning local experience, navigating languages, disparate issues around cultures, and then there's licensing issues, and there's tax and currency issues, and professional ideas around how we have practices. Then there's also the idea around global experts. The little button is not working here. Oh. There we go. The challenges that we see on the global basis. The global basis challenges the clients are really looking at is that they're looking for design and delivery that's seamless, something that they know is, that they can rely on, has a sophistication of quality, and then also that they're looking at a broader view of their portfolio, how work really transpires for all of their holdings around the world. And then lastly, that they really are looking at something that as an architect and designer, we maybe do internally, which is really to kind of look at measurements that we have for ourselves, but the clients are asking us to look at measurements collectively within the entire team And if you're familiar with KPIs or key performance indicators, that's a lot of what we've been asked these days to take a look at, to understand really how our clients are measuring performance collectively with the team, not just the folks that they're hiring, but also their own team. Clients are looking also for design services with a broader reach. At my company, we have 26 offices and we're global. We're global from the aspect that we have spotted offices throughout the world. But that's really not enough when we're looking at the reach and they would like to have some consistency in a relationship with you. So how do you do that? Well, you can't be everywhere and you have to have a strategy around how you're going to be able to service that client so that you can further develop that relationship. And I'll talk about that in a little bit. Focusing on partnerships with fewer services and providing the best and the better value. One of the things that I mentioned recently at another engagement that I was speaking at was the rise, we call it the rise of procurement. Some of you might have heard about this, but the rise of the fact that there's a lot in actually contracting for different types of services, and that procurement actually has a lot to do with checking boxes and with making sure that there is a competitive fee in mind, and that's a needed element. But also, how does that get translated to the value? And how can you push value up to be on an even keel with the competitive fee nature that we all live in today? And that's really a big challenge as we look at our clients globally. Clients are also looking at this broad solution, geographies, and one of the most important thing that they're looking at is a single point of contact. I'm sure that you've all heard that before. We would like to make sure that we have one person that we can call, one person that we can contact. You may all know that and recognize that on something that you're working on individually, that we'd like to just call a singular person. And that's wonderful if it's a single project. But if it's a 5 million square foot portfolio worldwide, and they want to call one person, who do they do? Who do they call? One particular one contact, cutting through, having several to talk to. Some of the trends that we're also seeing around our clients that are asking us to understand how to work globally more is an idea around process mapping. And process mapping has been around for many years, especially within engineering. But what we have been looking at is detailed dissection of a process in order to deliver for a client. And that process mapping actually has been extremely informative in a couple of different ways. It's been informative for ourselves to learn from our own individual experiences, but also with partners and our collaborators that we work with. We bring them in, and we actually have a session around process, how to develop the process. What are the ups and downs, if you will, of either working together, and how does that factor into a client-specific need, and then ultimately culturally in a different location. This particular image here is showing you just a snapshot of about a meter of a 12-meter long process map. So we could fill up this long wall with a very small detail, and I don't expect you to read the detail, but know that the intelligence is around understanding how we dissect the process of working globally. The other one, I'm actually kind of excited having heard Harold talk and seeing some of that great technology that Microsoft has been thinking about, because this will translate really well for what we're also seeing as a need and a trend of clients understanding doing work globally. Now, what I'm talking about is our partnership and collaboration, and how do we do that through what the needs are of our global clients. And one of the things that we've really noticed is that a technology platform is a necessity. It's essential. So, and what do I mean by a technology platform? Well, there's social media, there's the cloud, there's hosting a different website, a project website, and all different kinds of media. But what this is really depicting is it's showing us that all of those things need to come together into one place to work from. So if I go back to what I saw Harold working on, where you actually saw a wall and you can move around, I'm assuming you can move around different components of technology. This is in a similar way, something that you would be able to utilize on a daily basis. And we are actually now trying to utilize this so that we can take down the blurred lines, you will, of time zones, of teaching individuals in different companies and partnerships and our own company to bring them up to speed in a very quick way about some of the clients we work for. And so this particular platform here shows some social media technology where you can blog about the client, a calendaring event, team access, direct RSS feeds of information. We want our own internal teams to understand what the clients are seeking that day. If their stock is up, you probably will have a really great phone call with them. If it's down, maybe you might want to call them tomorrow and hope for the best that it will go up. And different links that you could have, actionable items, really the actionable items of being able to feed from all the different technologies that we would use within a company or our partner companies, and at the click and the real time to access that information without having to open up separate programs and find those programs, but you go right in to the need of that client. And then centrally, really looking at what kind of account status and updates around the client's statuses, real-time information, 24/7 available. And then lastly, a repository, which would be most like the idea around a cloud, but where all the information lies. So just by way of showing, I like a little bit of interaction here. Has anyone been using a similar platform or some kind of hybrid? And if you can you raise your hand? So I see one hand up. And what's amazing to me is that it's really a very intuitive tool. When we train around using this kind of platform, it really tells us that what we're trying to do is make it as simple as working with our a website or just navigating a simple website. This kind of information is really important for our clients to understand. So technology portals are really going to be something that the clients are looking for in the future. Research and culture sharing. This is something that has been paramount with what we've been doing, and what we love about our collaborations and partnerships with the firms that we work with is really being able to share in understanding research. Clients are really asking for that now. In fact, a lot of our engagements are about doing research and then implementing a project. And then the culture sharing is interesting as well, because culture sharing really is about understanding the cultures. We don't know every culture. Somebody else might not know every culture, but how do we get that information out and share it with a team that's actually trying to be successful around a project? There's a couple of interesting applications. There's one that's called Culture GPS, if you've heard of that before, which really talks about different characteristics, you will, of a specific country and their culture so that you could understand them better. And if you want to know a little bit more about that, see me later and I'll show it to you. So what do clients want? I've kind of gone over what some of those trends are and what they want, but really what they're looking for is very agile partnerships. They want creativity still. Creativity is very big. They want innovation. They want to have experienced team and speedy execution. There's nothing really new here, so it's not an epiphany. But how do you do that when the world is shrinking and you're trying to do a much more global delivery? So I like to get on the warm and fuzzy side about relationships, and relationships are important for us to understand when we're seeking to do work together with any partner and with any client. And what we're really finding with our clients is that relationships are becoming the stronger component than it is on experience. So experience is important, but the relationship that you have and the trust that's built. Now, those two things, the trust, it seems very soft, and it's not, we've got 20 of those that we've done in the past, so it makes it easy and you're experienced. but they want to know that the teams that they're working with, and I say collective teams, not just the individuals, but that the teams that they're working with will be solid for them. They will be behind them. They will be advocates and ambassadors for the work that they're doing. And that's a really important piece. And so balancing a relationship between somebody that is a client or two partners is really a very an interesting side of understanding where you're headed in terms of developing relationships. So I've kind of looked at 4 different relationships, so I want to talk about them just briefly. One, I think, is a formal relationship. One that might be something that you have something contractually with someone else, or maybe that would be, let's go on the personal side. That would be, say, a marriage. That would be a formal relationship. A casual relationship might be you're not married, but the casual relationship really is something that is familiar and it's comfortable, but it might not be completely of a trustworthy side of development. That doesn't mean that it can't get there, but it might be periodic. The occasional is really the periodic. The periodic relationship, you see somebody once in a while, you might work with them occasionally, and that's fine. Those are okay relationships, but you have to understand within any of these 4 what those categories mean. So when you're entering into a partnership or a collaboration with somebody, understand where you are at. Don't think that you're formal or that you have more than you don't. Understand it together and really have that baseline. And then developing, which is actually my favorite because that's one that you want, it's exciting. You want to know where that relationship can go and how it can take you into new partnerships and collaborations. And that makes it really wonderful, especially when it comes back to a client and you're energized to go and say to Mr. Client, Mrs. Client, I would love to show you and introduce you to some of the new people that I've been meeting, and I think they're going to be really great for you. So partnerships and collaborations are really important. I really defined it, and I go back to the hand metaphor, and the hands working together for a common goal. That's really what I think a partnership is about. But the partnerships really have benefits, and those benefits are really surrounding around knowledge sharing and research and benchmarking. I mentioned that previously. And then deeper understanding of cultural differences. There's so many great benefits of having a deep relationship with any kind of partner. So now you could look at that as personal or business-wise, that the important result of any kind of partnership and collaboration is that deeper relationship. So we've been at HOK developing some new partnership models. And for a company that's been around for some time, this is a bit of a challenge. So we're a very large company, and you want to be able to be agile as well, innovative, and move forward. So we're trying to think about how we can now develop new partnership models, and I'm going to share some of those with you today and really see if they might apply to how you might be doing business in all of your different regions and communities. But I wanted to describe 3 terms that I'll be using throughout this so you understand our language around how we develop the partnerships. So the first one is the prime, which is a main relationship holder. So somebody who has that relationship with somebody else, and we call that person the prime. They also might be an implementer. They might have the relationship and they do a lot of work with that particular person, so that is really what we call the prime. The support is really somebody that is a secondary relationship. So they don't have this main relationship, but they might have been referred to, and then they also do implementation too. But they didn't have that initial relationship, so they're bringing that on together just to support somebody that has the main relationship. An advisor is a person or a company that actually provides insight, but has minimal to almost no implementation work that they do. So implementation meaning that they're just being a consultant or an advisor and they're actually not doing any of the work of what potentially might be the project. So the 4 models that we have here, and I'm going to go through them here. The first model is more of a traditional model, which is, we call it a global prime and a local support. So that would be, say, a company like mine looking for a partner in Buenos Aires, and then we work together, we're contracted, they help support us. That's a very traditional model. And we've lived, and a lot of our clients and a lot of the traditional design services have lived in this model for many years. What we're departing from is really the next model to the right, where the prime actually is the local, and the support comes from the global. What that means is that the global, the prime, relinquishes some of their relationship in order to be successful with the client, and therefore becomes a trustworthy partner not only with the client, but with the local partner. And I'm going to show you an example of that coming up. That's a big change for us, because that shifts away from saying, well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to acquire as much work as we possibly can, and somebody locally can get a smaller portion of the work. When you tell somebody that the board of directors that you're going to do that, it puts a question in their mind saying, well, why are we giving up revenue so that somebody else can get the revenue when we had the main relationship? Well, what it does is it strengthens that main relationship tenfold. And I'm here to tell you that it really does strengthen that relationship. Those clients remember that, and they translate that to the next time that they need to engage you. And they will then engage you for that future. That's a really important thing. So that's a shift from it, from where we've gone, from really looking at what we might say is a land grab of the financial side of it, and let's put a small piece of financial there, and the other benefit and value we get out of that is the stronger relationship. So I go back to the warm and fuzzy because it's hard to say that strong relationship has value beyond a numerical dollar value. And that's what's really important in this newer model. This model has been used quite a bit, the global prime with a local advisor. Now, we have used that in the past, but that's becoming actually more apparent, which is really, as a company, having a presence within with a client and only needing to tap into some advisors, but not having to utilize their entire abilities in that area. But we need their knowledge. So what is the benefit then for that local? What oftentimes happens is that the local advisor feels like all they're getting is a very little bit out of it. But what they're getting is they're getting the knowledge that we're sharing with them about some particular client project or some process that we're doing, and they get that back, and actually it strengthens their expertise locally. So that when we are able then to call on them down the road, as a local prime, we feel more comfortable because they've actually been our advisor as well. So we try to actually go from here to here as much as we possibly can before we venture into this area. And that's really important because it's building a trust and a relationship with those advisors. The last model is a local prime and the global advisor. So that is actually, you could almost say the right side of this chart is really more the uniqueness that we've now been uncovering than perhaps the left side. So that local prime now has the relationship, maybe it is their own relationship, and they need to call a global or a larger entity and say, you know what, you have a bigger depth of knowledge. We need some of that for our local client. Can we knowledge share with you to actually be successful in this particular client? And the answer is yes, because what are we doing? We're building a relationship with that local provider. And it's really, really important for us to develop that same way that we're developing ourselves in this way, where the local prime then has a lot to say about the individual relationship. So this particular image just shows you what I've tried to do is demonstrate a lot of what I've talked about, where you have that main relationship, so the colors correlate here. And what is that the local or the global support doing? They may be, in the top case, implementing different work, or down here on the bottom, they might just be providing that knowledge and that advice. So there's the plus side. Again, the plus and the joining together. In the end, what you're doing is you're really getting a great product that you can share together and confidently can say was a benefit. And I often talking about two things, about one side and the other side, but really this could be a partnership of 10 different entities coming together. And we look a lot at the fact that the client is one of those 10 entities. So that's really important because that client has to be a part of that partnership and collaboration to make some of the newer models work, and they have to understand that. So I'm going to show you a couple of case studies that we have that show those typical kinds of scenarios on the partnerships, but and then some that don't. So the first one I mentioned was the global prime and the local support. And this one actually, I put it up here because I wanted to make a point that you can even be a partner with yourself, and sometimes that's hard to do. And in this case, this particular client, we are developing a whole workplace strategy for Zurich. And the partnership with ourselves, we had a main point of contact in our work being done in the United States, but in the UK, we had a team of folks that were working locally to help deliver the workplace strategies that was mostly European-centric. And what that did for us is it also helped us with time zone differences, and then obviously the cultural input of being able to utilize our own office. So that could have been ourselves, it could have been another company, but this is a traditional format. And we have many examples of having done this with many different clients and firms. The next one is a little closer to home here with all of you. And part of the reason why Victor and I have developed and started sharing a really great relationship together with his firm Contract. Now this is an example of breaking out of that mold and saying we have a really good relationship and we have some national contracts with a company, and the company is Oracle. Now, Oracle doesn't have any national contracts that are based in South America currently. And how can we help Oracle? They came to us and said, how can you help provide services in an area where we want your global knowledge about us in a region, but we can't have you do the work there because of several reasons. The money is in country and there's taxes, and all of you are aware of all those issues. But also that they wanted to have the consistency of their message, and they don't have time to train a local company to do that work. So how can you partner and put somebody else in charge, but can we get what you're doing from that knowledge center? So we said, sure, we have been thinking about how we're going to develop this model, and we're going to go ahead and test it with Oracle. And we did, and this project here was a successful project. So our partner, Contract, became the prime contract holder. We had a smaller role. Our role really was about the client's comfort in this global presence. I mentioned the design. And what happens is it starts to build this relationship and trust, not only together with partnerships, but with our client Oracle to say, you went out on a limb to have this trust together. We like that. They're calling us for more work now, to do that similarly in different locations in South America. That's a benefit. So that value, that relationship value went up 10 times because we had an opportunity to change our way of thinking around partnerships and collaborating with others, and to the benefit of a collective team to be able to do this work. I'm having problems with this. There we go. Another case study for you is in that quadrant in the lower left. Again, global prime and local advisor. Parsons is a very large global engineering company. We've been doing work for them for about a year and a half now, and we've been expanding our work with them. And they're tapping us and saying, you know, same thing. We want you to be the global, but we need to have some input in different regions. We are developing guidelines for Parsons in the Middle East and how they did work. And we knew culturally in the Middle East, very different on how we do work in South America or how we do work even in Europe or Asia. And so we wanted to tap an advisor, but there really wasn't much work there other than having their knowledge on intimate knowledge about some code issues and some cultural differences that we might have for workplace planning. So we engaged a firm to work with collectively. brought Parsons into that equation. They knew that that partner firm was there to help us out. That partner firm will have opportunities, hopefully, in the future because they became an advisor to our company. So it was a win-win. And I was having a great conversation last night with Gabriella from Contract about win-win. And what win-win really means is about what that company got out of it, what our company did, what the client did, what other folks that might have been a part of that got, the win. It's not about equal. It's about winning. And the winning is something really having to do with what is it that you want to get out of that. It's a goal. I want to receive something, but I don't necessarily have to be equal with everybody else, so long as I get something from it that I feel like we had a win as well. So understand the differences between winning and being equal. This last scenario is in the local prime with the global advisor. Now, we've been doing work with Eli Lilly for quite some time and developing standards for them in Asia and in Europe and in the US. And one of the things that this particular model showed us is that they really needed to, again, deliver locally, and we were advising on how that work was going to actually proceed. And we had only very, very limited work up front in this particular assignment, and then it was delivered on a local basis, and we only did an advisory role. So we didn't really need to implement anything. Now, that was a benefit for them, for that local provider, because they really understood then how they might be able to service Lilly in the future. Will they need to use us as advisor? Maybe, and maybe not. Maybe in the future they'll be able to do that work separately. Again, that's another model. You might think, well, isn't that just giving it away to somebody else? It might be in some view, but what you're also doing is you're again building back that trust to your main relationship, to say, we're willing to go out there so that we know that what we're doing is we're an extension of you, and that helps us in the end because we're strengthening our relationship with that client. So I think what I wanted to leave you with is that our world is changing a lot, and we've heard a lot of great things this morning from Greg and from Harold. I mean, I couldn't compare to the wonderful futurist thoughts that they had around how our world is changing. But when we look at collaborations and partnerships and how we work our relationships, we have to understand that those 4 models that I showed you may be different in 2 months from now. And I may have to come back and tell you about the next 4. But we have to be flexible and understand that those models will always continue to change. And if we have that in our understanding, then we'll be able to adapt to everything that's changing in the world today. So I'm going to leave you with 4 things that I want you to remember. Keep an open mind. Keep an open mind about partnerships and relationships and collaborations. Spend time dating. And that's the best way I can tell you. Spend time together to understand each other and to really feel like you know where you're headed in terms of collaborating with somebody. Build the relationship. Invest that time. Don't spend time just talking to somebody and saying, okay, well, we'll call you if we need you. Invest the time to understand what they're about, what makes them tick. Because what it does for you when you go back and you talk to your clients, it solidifies a relationship that you can make a stronger commitment to them, that you'll be successful for what they've asked you to do. And create collaborations. I love this one. Don't wait around. Find ways to go out there and create it. If I wasn't knocking on some doors of people that are in this room today and saying, I think your company's really interesting. How could we work together? I'm an architectural firm. You may be, selling coffee. And maybe there's something that's there that architecture and coffee goes together. It does actually go together because you have to drink a lot to stay up late at night to do all the building drawings that you're doing. But think about how you can really create collaborations. And then lastly, if I can get there, seek out the partnerships. Don't wait. After you've had some time to create those collaborations, go for some format of understanding what those partnerships are. Spend time together doing some sessions and really understanding what that partnership is going to look like and how you're going to go forward in that development. So with that, I will thank you and take any questions you might have around partnerships or collaboration. Thank you.